you all grabbed the soil salinization lab on your way in. And for this lab, you'll pretty much design your own experiment. As long as you have your own math figured out, you're good to go. I'm going to give you introduction to this lab on 2 separate days. So first of all, the basic introduction now. Seeds need water to grow. And you know that when water evaporates, salts are left behind. In agricultural areas where we spray a lot of water, there's a lot of evaporation, so there's a lot of salt left behind. It's called salinization. If that salt builds up too much in the soil, plants stop growing. Because I'm sure you realize that most plants cannot grow in salt water. And so the question is, how much salt is required to keep a seed from sprouting? And you have to answer that. So you'll have to design your own experiment. We want to control as many variables as possible. So I'll give you some hints about how to lay out your experiment. Then you can kind of fill in the blanks. You're not designing this thing from scratch. As you know, you'll want to remove other variables. So we're going to treat all your Petri dishes the same way, like this. You'll have a total of 6 Petri dishes. Each one of them will have a top and a bottom, a sandwich of paper towels. You can just cut them in circles and then pile them up. Those paper towels will absorb the water as if they were dirt. And then sandwich in between, you'll put 10 seeds into every sandwich. Then you'll water with different mixes of water to see where that cutoff is. You say, oh, at this level, salinization seems to have a difference on plant germination. Does that make sense to everybody? So far, so good? You'll need to use this formula that's on your paper. CV, VC, C1, V1, C2, V2. It's down in the information you will need. You can also find the salinity of the ocean if you use the internet. By Thursday, I'd like you to propose to me a lab setup. Basic proposal. And then on Friday, I'd like you to show up with your pre-lab, which is everything you need to do the lab, and you can't have the handouts on any of my labs. So you'll show up with your instructions. You'll set up your lab sort of like this. We'll tape it up and we'll keep it in the dark. You guys know that seeds don't need light to sprout because they sprout underground where it's dark. So we'll make a little stack of 6 Petri dishes. We'll tape the heck out of it. We'll put it in a box that lives in my shed. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll open that box and see how your seeds germinated. And then you will tell me, hey, it looks like around 1% or around 2% or around 3% or around 5% salt is what stops germination.
Do we all have different seeds?
You'll all have the same type of seeds, but each group of 3 people will have 60 seeds. So you can set up 6 Petri dishes with 10 each. Everybody got that? So there will be 6 Petri dishes per group of 3. Anybody want to ask me something about the lab? So now, I'd like to continue with yesterday's movie. We're not going to finish it because we've already used about half of our period. Can anybody remind me where we left off? Did we get to that neighborhood that had the cancer cluster? And we stopped right there, or we kept going past that?
Near like a hawk.
They were releasing a hawk?
We were past the hawk, getting deer.
Okay.
Is this movie going to start with like monoculture farming?
Yeah, it did.
It did?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't think it was like...
Whether the others are truly safe is a question McFarland residents have to live with. And people like Luis Hernandez also have to live with another possibility. Every year in
saw this
California,
already?
about 1,000 workers get medical treatment for exposure to farm chemicals. Are they poisoning their families too?
Porque si lo que enfermó a mi hijo no,
Hawk?
Yeah, we saw that.
Have a nice life.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.
This red-tailed hawk was near death a few days ago in a case of pesticide poisoning. Now it's going back home, but not exactly to the wild, because hawks like to spend the winter in the Central Valley's almond orchards, which are filled with small birds and rodents they prey on. But there are some forms of life here which the growers cannot tolerate. Insect eggs, which in the spring will become active